Hey out there, legal warriors. Does a victim have to press charges for a case to proceed against you? Are you interested in criminal law? Do you have a situation where this might apply to? Stay tuned. This is the video for you. My name is Attorney Lance Fryrear. I'm a defense attorney in Linwood, Washington. My law firm has been defending people charged with crimes all throughout Washington state for more than 20 years, and I'm putting out these videos to help educate the public. So if you find this useful, please like and please subscribe. More people get the help they need. Now I'm just going to jump right into it. You know, for this video, I could go several different ways with the question, does the victim have to press charges for the government to proceed with a criminal case against you? And this is all about Washington state. So I could do this from the suspect's point of view, or I could do this from the alleged victim's point of view, because we've got sort of different ways to think about it. So I'm going to start with it from the suspect point of view. From the suspect point of view, it's like, hey, I have been arrested for a charge, but the victim doesn't want to press charges against me, so I'm free. Or I mean, I just got to make sure they don't want to press charges, and then I'm good, right? Well, unfortunately, that's not the case. In Washington state, the plaintiff in a criminal matter is not the victim. The plaintiff is basically the governmental entity of the jurisdiction where the supposed crime happened. If that were in Linwood, Washington, where my office is, it would be the city of Linwood, would be the plaintiff as represented through the city of Linwood prosecutor's office. If it were a felony case, let's say in King County, the plaintiff would be the state of Washington as represented by the King County prosecutor's office, which are either in Seattle or Kent. So it is not, in a criminal matter, alleged victim name versus defendant. It is governmental entity who has the right to prosecute us, some type of geographical location based upon that versus defendant. So in a civil case, that's different. If they're suing you for money damages, it is the victim who decides whether or not to file a civil suit, right? Or it could be their insurance company standing in their place. But in criminal cases, it's not up to the individual to file the criminal charge in court against someone. So does that mean that it's irrelevant whether or not the victim wants to press charges? Not necessarily so. It's not necessarily irrelevant. And that is on two different levels I can think about. One is the law enforcement level, which is I'm thinking about police. And the second is about the prosecutor level. That's the attorneys that work for the prosecuting attorney's office who typically file the charges. So on the police officer level, a police officer might think, especially in a property crime, hey, well, this is a hit and run charge where someone ran into this car and the defendant took off, and I found them later at their house. And I, as the officer, might ask the victim, hey, do you really want to proceed with charges on this? Now, it's not up to the victim to control whether it happens, but sometimes a police officer will say, well, if the victim doesn't want to pursue charges and all they want is the insurance of the suspect to sort of get it taken care of, and the suspect I sort of like and is cooperative, and I don't want to go through the hassle of filing this case, the officer might not file the case, and it may never get to the prosecutor for them to decide whether or not there's going to be a charge, and that's quite common, okay? And so it is possible when a victim doesn't want to press charges, it's relevant, but it doesn't control the outcome necessarily. This other time I see that in police-based cases is cases where there might be a different type of property crime, like theft or something, right? Hey, this got stolen. The certain stores don't want things prosecuted. They just want their stuff back because it's too much trouble from a business decision to send their agents and stuff from doing their jobs to court to testify over basically petty thefts. So for the good of those stores, I won't say which ones those are. I have some ideas given my practice area, but that's another area where what the victim wants as they relate to the police may make a difference. And you can think of countless other situations that might apply. Now, what about prosecutors, right? How does it apply to the prosecutor, what the victim's wishes are? Well, the most common one we're going to see is some type of domestic violence charge, right? On some type of domestic violence charge. In domestic violence is a designator. It's not an actual criminal code in Washington state. You could be, if you stole your partner's purse or wallet, that would be theft domestic violence, even if there was no actual physical altercation. But the most common domestic violences would be assault, domestic violence, property damage, domestic violence, which is malicious mischief, harassment, domestic violence, that's making a threat. And so if you're at the county level where the officer doesn't immediately file the charge, it goes to the county prosecutor to decide what to do. And that takes them sometimes months to decide what to do. Now, remember, if the alleged victim, Mr. or Mrs. Suspect, doesn't get to decide what happens, but if the alleged victim tells the prosecutor, I'm not going to cooperate, or tells them I'm all good, and it sort of looks like a not very serious report, and the suspect doesn't have a record, and there's other factors involved, the prosecutor might take into account the victim's wishes in deciding that they have cover now not to charge for some reason, right? Because remember, everybody is self-interested, defense attorneys, judges, prosecutors, any person watching this. And so if a prosecutor chooses not to charge, they often want to make sure that there's not going to be an upset victim complaining about them to somebody for not charging the case. So that's from the suspect's point of view. What about from the victim's point of view? So two options for the victim. Yes, I do want it charged, or no, I don't want it charged. So both cases can provide frustrations. Let's say you're a victim that says, yes, I want it charged. Then how do you try to make it get charged? Well, you need to, if it's at the prosecutor level, you need to contact the prosecutor's office and say, who's making this decision? In the prosecutor's office, I'm the alleged victim. They're going to talk to you. And you say, well, my wishes are this gets charged, and this is why. Hey, here's how much money I'm out. I'm not sleeping at night, et cetera, et cetera. That's at the prosecutor level. It's more frustrating at the police level. It's where we hear the most, upsetness from the public talking to us. It's like, hey, my neighbor's doing this to me and no one cares, right? Or, my identity got stolen, no one cares. Or in my case, my storage unit got broken into and I got a bunch of stuff stolen. And while the police care, they can't find anyone to charge in that case. So if you're wanting things charged and you're at the police level, you're going to want to make it very clear what the crime is, that it's not just my neighbor's flipping me off. It's probably not a crime. And you're going to want to, sound that to the police that you're not a crazy person and that what your complaints are legitimate. And if you ever get told by the police, hey, just go file a restraining order, that's, in my opinion, the police's way to say, we're not going to charge it. It's not really our problem, but go get a solution in another place. And I've got a lot of videos on restraining orders. So what if you're a victim who doesn't want something charged? Well, the easiest way to avoid, to get your wishes heard is to try to make sure it never gets to the prosecutor, right? You tell the police, I don't want this filed. I don't want this done, right? I want to settle it in a different way. It's too stressful for me. Now, they're going to ignore that if it's a domestic violence case because they have mandatory arrest laws for domestic violence cases in this state. And that's a generalization, but for the most part, they're going to proceed on their own. But in some cases, very serious cases, even cases that involve sex offenses and things like that, there's complicated human factors in criminal law, and therefore the police may go ahead and listen to what you have to say and never send it to the prosecutor because the victim doesn't want it pursued. If it gets to the prosecutor level, depending on the type of charge, it's a little more complicated. Pretty much the prosecutors are deaf if they hear an alleged victim wanting to protect the abuser, right? If they have a good case and the alleged victim sounds like, I want her, I need her, I love her type stuff, that sort of activates that protective function in the prosecutor, and they're going to charge it. Now, if they hear, I wasn't really harmed, I don't currently feel threatened, it's going to be more harm to me to do this than not, then maybe they listen. But the most important thing is if you don't want something charged, you make it known that you don't want to charge, because they're going to assume you do because there's a police report that says whoever that suspect is in this hypothetical that you don't want charged did something wrong. So don't be bashful. All right. So I hope that really covers the situation about whether or not the victim needs to press charges. Absolutely not. They don't need to. In some cases, they can have some effect, and it depends if it's at the police or prosecutor level. In some cases, you can have no effect. So hope you found that useful. If so, please like, please subscribe. More people get the help they need. More importantly, if you have a criminal matter and you have something that sort of rings to this type of situation or any crime, even a protection order in Washington State, give us a call. We'll listen to what happened. We'll identify a way forward, and we will be there for you. Thank you.